Hello, in this video we will discuss about the adrenal gland anatomy and physiology. So first of all we should understand the structure of the adrenal gland, which that is situated upper part of the each kidney. So it means the here is the descending aorta and inferior vena cava, which that is supply and oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood, which that is here. So here is the adrenal artery, which that is supply the left and right adrenal gland. So it means the adrenal gland supply of the blood into the adrenal gland. So here is the ureter and two kidney as well as the bladder and urethra. So let's talk about the adrenal gland structure, which that is basically is the made up of cortex. When we will cross section of the adrenal gland to understand. So here is the right adrenal gland and left adrenal gland. So in this way the ureter and bladder and urethra is looking like this. While here is the adrenal gland, basically is the inside is the medulla, while the outside is known as the cortex. So here I am giving the cross section of the adrenal gland to understand inside of the structure of the adrenal gland. So basically the cortex is produce the different type of hormone, while the medulla produce the different type of hormone separately. So let's begin to understand. First is the cortex and the medulla. So this is the upper part is known as the capsule. So in this way I am giving the cross-sectional structure of the adrenal gland to understand the structure. So first of all, here is the adrenal artery, which that is supplying the blood to the adrenal gland. Adrenal gland contain different cells. So first of all, here is the capsule, which that is contain a different type of cell, which that is uh, uh, which that is uh, a cell which that is reproduced, as well as this cell is known as the stem cell, and which produce the zona glomerulosa, which that is layer is made up of mineralocorticoid and aldosterone and corticosterone hormone, which that is produced from this region. So this is the capsule, and adrenal cortex contain a zona glomerulosa and zona fasciculata, yes, zona fasciculata, which that is produce the glucocorticoid and cortisol and cortisone, which that is used for the sympathetic response. So it means the fight and flight response, which that is triggered this hormone, which that is known as the glucocorticoid and cortisol hormone. So in this way, here is the zona radicularis. This zona radicularis is produce the androgen hormone, testosterone and estrogen for the dihydrotestosterone, which that is secondary sexual character of the male, and female is for libido. On the other hand, here is the zona radicularis, which that is the inner, and the innermost layer is known as the medulla. Medulla produce a catecholamines. These catecholamines is basically epinephrine and norepinephrine, which that is used for the vasodilation and vasoconstriction. So this is also produce the peptides and somatostatin and substance P. This is lead to inhibition of the pain during the sympathetic nervous system. So I hope you make sense about the cross section area of the adrenal gland, which that is made up of medulla and cortex. So inner side is known as the medulla. Why here is, let's begin to understand the nervous system, which that is sympathetic nervous system, which that is stimulated by the brain to the spinal cord, which that is the spinal cord is the thoracic region of the spinal cord, T8, thoracic 8 and thoracic 1 nerves, which that is produced. So in this way, here is the dorsal ganglion and the ventral ganglion, which that is the inside is the central nervous system, while the peripheral nervous system is here, and that's ventral root, which that is lead to give the stimulation of the gland via thoracic nerves, which that is the celiac ganglion. Celiac ganglion is basically stimulated by the adrenergic nerves ending. So this is known as the adrenergic nerves. This nerves ending will stimulate during the sympathetic nervous system, while also stimulate during the parasympathetic nervous system for the inhibition, but we will understand just the sympathetic nervous system to understand better. So this stimulation is like that, while it release from the adrenal medulla to produce the epinephrine and norepinephrine. This epinephrine and norepinephrine is basically stimulate to the different tissue for the gluconeogenesis and ATP production, for example in the liver and muscle. And the basically muscle contraction during the epinephrine basically is the muscle contraction, and norepinephrine which that is stimulate the muscle contraction as well as vasoconstriction. So this is the basic reason why we will discuss here. So the epinephrine and norepinephrine is basically muscle contraction and vasoconstriction, and the different area which that is used for the vasodilation and vasoconstriction on the basis of their requirement due to the sympathetic nervous system. We will also understand, but now we will discuss about the physiological aspect of the adrenal gland, which that is the adrenal gland contain a cells basically. So let's begin to understand the sympathetic nerves ending will stimulate the production of the adrenal glands to secretion. So here is the adrenergic nerves which that is bind with the adrenal gland. So it before the stimulation basically is, first of all we will understand about the development, understand about the metabolism of the adrenal hormone. So here's the phenylalanine, which that is on the basis of hydroxylase enzyme, which that is remove the hydroxyl group to become a tyrosine, and this tyrosine will enter into the blood circulatory system. This tyrosine will enter into the adrenal cells. So after the entering of the adrenal cell of the medulla, for example, so this is the medullary cell, which that is after the entering basically tyrosine. So this is the calcium will be enter. First of all, we will not understanding about the calcium mechanism. So the tyrosine will convert in the presence of hydroxylase enzyme to the L-DOPA. It means the releasing of the hydroxyl group. So the decarboxylation to increase the dopamine. So this dopamine will be containing his structure is like that, which that is will become a noradrenaline vesicle, which that is store the number of dopamine. So this is the mechanism. While here it is known as the chromaffin granules. This cell is known as the chromaffin cell. So the chromaffin granules is present. This chromaffin granules will be stimulated after the nerves stimulation of the adrenergic nerves. So this adrenergic nerves will stimulate after the releasing of the acetyl-CoA or different neurotransmitter. So this is the nerve impulse, and this nerve impulse will be lead to tyrosine also, increase the tyrosine residue inside, while on the other hand the calcium channel will be allowed to depolarization, and it means the calcium move inside, while the negative charge will be created, which that is inhibit the production of inhibit the potassium outside movement, which that is lead to exocytosis of this noradrenaline vesicle, and it will be increase the blood catecholamines. So this collectively is known as the catecholamine, which that contain epinephrine and norepinephrine, as well as somatostatin substance P. So let's begin to understand with the norepinephrine and epinephrine. So it's contain basically is the glucocorticoid, it is known as. This glucocorticoid is basically for example is their target, but here we will discuss about the epinephrine and norepinephrine, which that is basically norepinephrine are present inside of the chromaffin granules, but it will be as after the name of the noradrenaline and adrenaline on the basis of their mode of action. So here is contain our receptor alpha receptor and beta receptor, which that play function differently. For example, the alpha receptor, which that is alpha 1 receptor, which that contain alpha 1 receptor are present on the different cells, which for example muscle, for example the blood vessel, which that is vasoconstriction, while on the other hand the eyes, which that is the mydriasis or constriction of the pupil, and that is meaning of this for alertness, and the gluconeogenesis and glucogenolysis, which that means the glucose elevation in the blood circulatory system. And that means when blood will be increased, it means the sympathetic nervous system is activating. And while on the other hand, the motility of GIT or motility of gut gastrointestinal tract will be decrease. Why? Because the sympathetic nervous system will inhibit the digestion, so it means that is the major problem. So on the other hand, the alpha 2 receptor, this alpha 2 receptor is action is different as compared to the alpha 1 receptor. So this receptor there are many receptors are present on the basis of their organ and tissue. So it means here is the alpha 2 receptor, which that is used for the vasoconstriction, same what the insulin releasing from the pancreas due to the high blood glucose level for the invasion of the insulin into the cell, invasion of the glucose into the cell. So on the other hand, here is the beta receptor. So alpha receptor was that, and the beta receptor is this. Beta receptor is basically for increase the heart rate by the binding of the heart tissue, while on the other hand the contraction of the bladder urethra for prevention of the urine formation. So the dilation of the trachea for increasing of the breathing and uterus relaxation also. And the aqueous secretion is produced from the lacrimal gland, which that produce the lysozymes enzyme, and this is also lubrication and antibacterial. While on the other hand, the decrease of the gut motility is the same like the alpha receptor, while the beta 2 and beta 1 was, but here is the beta 3 is used for the adipose tissue lipolysis. So increase of the lipolysis will lead to gluconeogenesis, increase of the fatty acid, as well as increase the ketone bodies. So that is quick response of the sympathetic nervous system. So I hope you make sense about these things. I had discussed about the adrenal gland anatomy and physiology and their cell origin, medulla and cortex.